We've talked about the Khawarij before, earlier sect in Islam. Bukhari puts the hadith of Khawarij in the same chapter as the hadith of the man who insulted the Prophet ﷺ. I think we've talked about that before. So in other words, what Bukhari is telling us is that the beginning of the Khawarij was this man who insulted the Prophet ﷺ. How do we know who's a Khariji? I said in one of my previous talks today that there are many Khawarij movements within the Muslim Ummah today. And they are disguised as Sunnis most of the time. And most people don't recognize them. Right? And on top of that, now there's a further distortion taking place recently where certain groups are accusing everyone of being Khawarij. Anyone who fights against them is a Khawarij. So, for example, in Egypt, we have these military dictator, Sisi, who took over Egypt from an elected Muslim leader. Remember, after there was the Arab uprising and they got rid of that previous dictator, then there was elections. And through the elections, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin came into power. So these were chosen by the Egyptian people. However, he was, for whatever reason, unpopular with certain elements within the military and other powerful elements within Egypt and now overseas especially. And so the military took over, by force, and they threw these people in jails. They've tortured them, killed them, God knows what they've done to them. And now these people, these military people, Sisi and others, are calling them Khawarij. Yeah, they're saying that these Ikhwan al-Muslimin are Khawarij because they're saying they're rebelling against the state. So this is a further distortion that has taken place in recent years. So people are even more confused now, right? Who are Khawarij? What are Khawarij, etc. This is also, these people are not Khawarij. So what I want to say very clearly, and inshallah, as I said before, I am writing an article on this whole thing, and inshallah we'll be presenting that publicly when it's done. But what I will say now is that not everyone who rebels against the Muslim leader is a Khawarij. Yeah? Not everyone who rebels against a Muslim leader is a Khawarij. If that leader is unrighteous and oppressive and a tyrant, and some righteous Muslim groups try to remove that leader, this is recognized within our fiqh. And this does not mean you're a Khawarij. So that's very important to make that distinction, because people are now distorting on both sides. There are Khawarij groups who are posing themselves as Sunni that are distorting things. And then there are these sort of tyrants now we have in Muslim countries who are now saying that anyone who tries to fight against them or try to remove them is a Khawarij. And they've got government scholars. They've got these scholars, I mean, big names in Azhar and places like that, who are giving all these talks and saying that these people are Khawarij. So there's a massive amount of confusion right now. So that's why I feel it's very important to clarify and to make very clear for the Muslims who are Khawarij, historically. How do we know if some groups are Khawarij groups? Because if you say that anyone who rebels against the Muslim leader is a Khariji, that means you're saying that Sayyidina Hussein was Khawarij. You're saying that Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who we talked about last time, he was Khawarij. You know what I'm saying? So that definitely is not the case. That's never been the Sunni position, that anyone who tries to remove an unrighteous leader is a Khariji. No. The Khawarij have got very specific features. And for those who study them, you can recognize them straight away like this. This is why I think it's important to understand their manifestation and how they manifest. Now, Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah, obviously one of our greatest of the Sunni scholars later, he said, look, if there's one thing you need to know to identify a Khawarij, there's one thing you can use always to identify who's Khariji. And that is this, that they nearly all the Khawarij groups, because remember they splinter into many different factions and groups under the umbrella Khawarij. All of them have this one thing in common. They say that anyone who commits a major sin is a kafir. Whoever commits a major sin is a kafir. In other words, let's say you're a Muslim but you drink wine, you're a kafir. If you miss your 5 daily prayers, you're a kafir. If you lie or backbite, you're a kafir. Because major sins, because then the question comes, what is a major sin? And who defines what is a major sin? Because the ulama have got a massive difference about major sins as well. There's some ulama that said there's only a few major sins, but there's some ulama that said that they basically make nearly everything a major sin. So when they say, you know, and this is how they then accuse the leader of the Muslims of being kafir, because they say, oh, these leaders are committing major sins, they're not implementing Sharia, whatever, they're major sins, so that means they're kafir. Then the next thing they will do, they will say, anyone who supports that leader is also kafir, because he's committing a major sin by supporting someone who's an unrighteous or a kafir leader. So then anyone who supports that leader now becomes kafir. And then they will take their sword and they say, we're going to declare jihad against the kafirin. And they go and they start slaughtering and massacring the Muslims. And this is the same pattern they always come with time after time after time. The first stage is to start criticizing Muslims and saying, oh, they commit major sins, they're kafirs. Yeah. And then some of them, they start saying, if you commit minor sins, you're not kafir. But if you continuously commit minor sins, that's a major sin. If you continuously commit minor sins, that is a major sin. And a major sin means you're a kafir. So even people who commit minor sins, they're kafir as well. And it's no joke. I mean, this is a pattern for them. They develop these type of ideas more and more extreme, you know. I'll tell you a true story. I had a couple of friends back, this is going back 15 years or so, when I was just studying Islam myself. And these couple of brothers, they were also studying Islam. And one of them was a Bangladeshi brother from East London. And another one, I think he was a Pakistani brother. Anyway, they used to go to a circle of one of these type of, we call them takfiris. Takfiris, they make takfir, they call everyone kafir, you know. So there was one circle, this is before 9/11, there was this, because it was much more open in those days, you know. So one of these so-called takfiri scholars, he used to have this circle in East London, and they used to attend, you know, they say, yeah, it's a good little study circle. So the sheikh would be always, you know, talking about every different group and saying they're kafir. You know, like, so Hizb ut-Tahrir, they're kafir because of this. All the Sufis, they're kafirs because of this. All the Shia, they're kafir. All of these, they're kafir. The Saudis, they're kafirs as well, because they you know, they do unrighteous things, and everyone's kafir. And eventually these two brothers, you know, they started getting involved with proper Sunni scholars, and they said, we want to leave, we're not going to. So they decided they're going to leave the circle. So they went up to the sheikh, you know, they said, sheikh, respectfully, you know, we're not going to be attending the circles anymore. But please, sheikh, when we leave, please don't call us kafir. Yeah, there were so many, and there's so many like that, you know. That's what I'm saying. This is very widespread. But it's very important for us to recognize this. It's a good question. Are they doing it consciously, or are they sincerely doing it? You know, it's a very type of sickness in the heart, you know. And you can't, I really can't answer that question, because it's a very subtle type of sickness. The Prophet ﷺ has described it, you know. When you see their prayers, you will think your prayers are nothing. When you see their fasting, you'll think your fasting is nothing. They recite the Quran, but it doesn't go beyond their neck, you know, it doesn't go to the heart. So outwardly, they're very pious. I mean, they're praying, and I can't understand that psychology myself. I find it very difficult to understand. And Prophet ﷺ said that Iman leaves them like the arrow. You know, Iman goes through them. It comes and it goes. It doesn't stay with them. So they've got no Iman left. That's all I can say is what the Prophet ﷺ said. You know, whether they're sincere, not sincere, draw your own conclusions. I mean, I do find the psychology very fascinating. And it's also fascinating that same psychology is a sort of archetype. That's not only in Islam. You find it in other religions, exactly the same psychology, certain groups are exactly. So within the Christians, you have these Puritans, you know, a type of Protestants known as Puritans. And in fact, these are the people that founded America. You know, the founding fathers that went on the Mayflower, and there were, a lot of them were Puritans. These Christians that are similar to these people in our Khawarij.
She also asked, how do you tell if they are Khawarij? And if you're...
I mean, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying to explain. And obviously when I write the article, inshallah, it will help more as well. But like HTs, let's say for HT, I don't know if you meant HTs, but HTs, for example, they don't say that people who commit major sins are disbelievers. So HTs may believe in, for example, bringing about Khilafah and getting rid of unrighteous leaders, but if they don't believe this bit, see what the key difference, I'll tell you what the key difference is, because when Sayyidina Ali was fighting with Muawiyah, for example, they both recognized each other as Muslims. They both recognized each other as Muslims. When Ali was fighting Aisha, they both recognized each other as Muslims. And when one party defeated the other party, they treated them as Muslims. They didn't take the booty, they did not take them as slaves, they certainly did not kill them. This is the key difference. These people, they treat you as kafirs and they will slaughter you. And if they defeat that group, they will take slaves, they will take booty, they will treat them as kafirs. And if you look at Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, when he came, he's one of the latest Khariji groups that came about in the early 19th century, turn of the 18th and 19th century. He took slaves and he took the property of the Muslims when he fought them. So this is a key thing, you know. Muslims can fight Muslims. There can be civil war. We accept that. That's a reality of human beings. But there's no need to call people kafir. If you're having a political, you know, it's a political fight, it's a fight for power, whatever it is, there's a difference there. These Khawarij groups, they always believe they know Islam better than everyone else. They criticize the Prophet ﷺ. They declared all the Sahaba to be kafir. Yeah, they said they know the Quran better than the Sahaba, better than Sayyidina Ali, better than all the Sahaba. This is what they do. This is the pattern. And throughout every generation, these groups have arisen. They accuse the rulers, the Muslim rulers, of being kafir, and they fight and slaughter the Muslims. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he declared the Ottomans to be kafirs, and he fought against the Ottomans. And as I say, initially they took over Arabia, but eventually the Ottomans defeated them. They sent the generals from Egypt, Ottoman generals, and he defeated those first group of followers of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And it was only after the Ottoman Empire finally was defeated by Britain and France in the First World War, that's when they came back in Arabia, because the Ottomans were no longer there to stop them.